Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out tonight. I'm Dr. Jim Anderson, and we're going to be talking about negotiating tonight. Okay? What's very interesting about negotiating is that it sounds like a fairly exotic type of thing. We know that there are negotiators out there. We've seen movies. We know about, police officers who have to go and negotiate with people who barricaded themselves in houses and stuff like that. It sounds like a very, specific profession. And you might think about yourself and say, hey, listen, I'm an engineer, or I'm a manager, or I'm whoever I am. I'd like to know about negotiating, but I don't think of myself as a negotiator. All right? However, let me ask you a question. How often do you negotiate? Would you say you've negotiated this week?
Yes.
Okay. Have you negotiated this month? How many times have you negotiated this month, right? Anybody in a committed relationship? Okay. I don't have to say anything, right? You negotiate every single day in that. So the interesting thing about negotiations is that we already negotiate. We are all negotiators. There's no question about that. There might be a little bit of a question about how good of a job we do. Right? If you've never been trained, if you've never been taught, if you haven't had the time to read a book or talk with somebody who negotiates as part of, key part of their job, you might be winging it. Using your own best guess. You've learned things from movies and television. Okay, not a problem. On-the-job training, perhaps. Not a problem with any of that. But here tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to cover with you the skills that you need to become a better negotiator. Okay? What we're going to cover during our time together is going to equip you with information that 90% of the people that you'll be negotiating with don't have. Okay, so we're going to spend just a brief amount of time together, and I'm going to be talking really fast. Okay? But I guarantee you, when you walk out of here, we will have taken you from here up to here. You'll be that much better. Now, I do apologize. I have 15 different negotiating tactics, notes, suggestions that we're going to be covering over a fairly short period of time. But don't worry about it. First off, I've given you a handout. Feel free to use the handout to jot down any notes that you want to make. Okay? Secondly, I've taken everything that I'm going to be covering tonight and I've put it into an ebook. And tonight when I go home, I have your email addresses. I'm going to be sending you an email, and that email is going to have a link to where you can get the ebook. Okay? And it will cover everything that we covered tonight. So you'll get it here now. You'll also have a chance to read about it when I send it to you. So I don't know how you prefer to learn, but man, I'm going to get you one way or another, okay? Okay, now let me ask you a real quick question. If somebody came to you and said, hey, listen, I want to have this happen. I want to make this happen. I need you to go negotiate to make it happen. What would you feel? What's your first gut reaction when somebody asks you to go negotiate something? Or when you know you're going to negotiate something. Your car fails. You know you have to get a new car. What's your first thought?
To accomplish a task.
To accomplish a task. That's great. And what does that feel like? Now, I'm in a room full of men. I think I know the answer, right? Do you feel like you're going into combat? Come on, right? Because in negotiations, there's winners and losers, right? Somebody's going to win. And what do you want to be? You want to be a winner or you want to be a loser? Winner! That's right, exactly. And the reason is because a lot of us, a lot of people, view negotiation really as a form of combat. Hopefully it doesn't come to blows, but it's at least a verbal sparring opportunity, right? We've seen the movies. The negotiator pounds on the table, right? He's not going to take no or yes or whatever for an answer, right? And for tonight at least, I'd like you to take that sort of antiquated view of negotiations and push it off to the side. And the reason is because if you think about it that way, you're going to run into problems. Because if you view negotiations as being a form of combat, then you're not going to look, well, unless you like combat. The problem is then if you have combat, then you have winners and losers, right? And you really only have two choices. You're going to either win or you're going to lose, and that's the end of the day. And if you encounter somebody who's a better negotiator, there's only one way that's going to work out. You're going to lose, right? And that can't be. So instead, I'd like you to think about negotiations the way I view it. Negotiation is simply a form of conversation. Now, it's a very specialized form of conversation. You're going to sit down with the other party, whoever they happen to be, car dealer, somebody who's selling a house, who knows, somebody at work, a vendor or supplier, and you're going to have a talk with them. Okay? In that conversation, you want to get something. They have something that you want. Right? And sometimes that makes us feel like we're at a disadvantage. Right? You know, they got something we want, man, I hope they'll give it to me, right? But what you have to remember is that they're taking the time to sit down and talk with you, right? That means you've got something that they want. The car dealer wants your money. The person who's selling the house wants your money. If you're selling a house, you really want the person who's buying it to buy your house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So the fact that they're willing to spend time with you means that they want something from you. So you're going to have this very special form of conversation. So let's see what that actually means. Well, we're all engineers here. And what we like is we like processes, right? And the cool thing I have to tell you tonight is that actually negotiating is a process. Okay? Sometimes people say, well, so what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a talk with them. I'm going to see what I can get out of them. I can see if we can reach a deal, which is fine. But it turns out that that deal actually is an 8-step process. Now, this makes it all look nice and linear and stuff like that. And if you know as well as I do, if you've ever been in a negotiation, it rarely does this work out quite that nice. But you will discover these 8 parts to every negotiation that you're involved in. Sometimes you'll skip ahead, sometimes you'll skip back, sometimes you may even skip a step. It doesn't matter. All 8 steps are there. So let's take a look and see what makes up a negotiation. The very first step is to prepare. Okay? And you'd be amazed at the number of people who enter into negotiations without preparing. And we're really talking about doing your homework. The key here, the most fundamental part of preparing for a negotiation is to know what you want. Why are you going to spend the time having this very special discussion with somebody? What do you want? I want the car? Do you really want that car, or do you want a car? Well, I want a car, and that car right now looks like the one I want. Do you want that house? Do you want that deal with the supplier? Do you have something that you want somebody to buy or take off of your hands? If you don't know what you want, the negotiation can't possibly end well, right? Because something will happen, but you'll have absolutely no idea if it's what you wanted, right? I buy and sell a lot of stuff on Craigslist. Trust me, the people I'm dealing with have no idea what they really want. And they have no idea what the value of what they're selling is, right? I love it. It's fantastic. For me, it's like shooting fish in a barrel, okay? Second phase is the opening phase, okay? This is where you hear their case. And this is where they hear your case. You're negotiating for something, right? They're there, you're here. You get an opportunity to tell them what you want or what you have to provide to them. And they get to do the same thing. All too often, especially engineers, right, we don't listen to them, right? We're there to tell them what we have for them, or we're there to tell them what we want from them. I'm looking for somebody who can provide me with 4 servers with 8 quad processors, and I'm looking to spend no more than $2,000 per server. And if we end up telling them what we want. What we need to do on this phase is actually listen. You'd be amazed at how often the other side has something that's better than what we're looking for. All right, that's going to cost $1,500. Okay, twist my arm. But yeah, okay, so we can do something like that. Third phase is where we argue. So after they've presented their case and after we've presented our case, what happens? Everybody go, well, good, that seems pretty reasonable. Why don't we just work out some paperwork and we're done? No, absolutely not. So what happens is during the argue phase, you say, listen, I understand what you're asking for or what you're presenting me with. It's not enough. Here's what's missing. Here's what I want to have. Okay? Guess what they're going to do? The exact same thing to you. Okay? They don't like what you're willing to pay. They don't like your terms. They don't like whatever you're offering to them, et cetera, et cetera. So the third phase of any negotiation is when you basically start to poke holes in each other's parts. The next one is where you start to explore. This is phase number 4. Okay? So you've had your little back and forth with them. Look, ultimately the reason that you're negotiating with anybody is because you want to reach a deal. Right? That's the ultimate goal here. So when you start to explore, what you're doing is you're poking around. You're looking for what's important to them, and you're trying to communicate to them what's important to you. If you've ever bought a house, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So if you're buying a house from somebody, you're finding out if they're going to, pay for whatever was found during the inspection, right? If they're going to fix things. Maybe they're going to drop the price. Maybe they'll come up with some sort of terms of payment, et cetera, et cetera. What you're doing is you're probing around. What you're going to find as you explore is some things not going to happen, right? They're really, I'm not budging on that. That's fine. That's what exploring is all about. Then find the other 6 things that they are going to budge on. The next phase number 5, is signal. Remember, if you're having this discussion with somebody, okay, ultimately you have to communicate to them where you have some flexibility and where you have no flexibility. So this signaling part occurs after the exploring, right? This is where you're saying, well, I understand what you're asking for. I don't think I'm willing to do that, but I think we could do something there. Maybe I've got something I can do. Let's come back to that, and let's see if we can do with it. The next step, which is phase 6, is packaging. After you've done all this exploring and all this signaling and stuff like that, now it's time to start to work on putting a deal together. What's the deal actually going to look like? You've had all this great discussion. You've discovered where their hard points are. You've communicated to them where you're not going to budge. Now it's time to buckle down and start to put a deal together. Okay? Let's start to pencil it in. Let's start to put it together. Okay, let's put it in the next step. We move on to closing. Closing's a huge deal. Closing, you're actually going to document whatever the deal looks like. You and I can talk for hours, and we can be in perfect agreement. Fabulous. That sounds a great thing to do. When I actually write it down, what I write down, and when you see it actually written down, may be completely different. Because when I said this, you heard that. But when I write it down and you read it, you go, whoa, no, wait, that wasn't what I agreed to, right? So closing is huge. Closing is where you work out those last few issues. Now, after we write down a deal and we sign it, right? You agree, I agree, we're all taking care. That's the end of it, right? Negotiation's over, right? I'm setting you up, okay? You know I'm setting you up, right? The answer is no, right? Because when we negotiate, a negotiation is all about a deal. And if you and I agree on a deal, then I agree to do something and you agree to do something, correct? Okay? You have to do it, okay? You actually have to do what you will promise to do. And coincidentally, I have to do what I promised to do. Real quick question. Have you ever reached a deal with somebody, had full agreement, and then they didn't do their part? Guaranteed. Okay, the interesting question is, why didn't they do their part? Because they were jerks. They never meant to do it. A lot of different reasons, right? If you're going to go through the time, energy, and effort of actually negotiating something with somebody, you want the other side to do their part, right? Let's assume you're going to do, well, it's a good point. They want you to do your part, right? But you also want them to do their part. So if you're able to negotiate a deal with somebody that they have no intention whatsoever of doing, you've wasted your time, right? Is it possible to negotiate something with somebody that they'll never do? They have to be mad at you, right? You have to have really angered them during the negotiation process. But if you do that, there's a possibility at least that they won't do it. So implementation, which is phase 8, we often think that signing the deal is the end of the deal. Yay, we're all taken care of. But it's not. Both sides have to follow through on what they agreed to. Otherwise, you've wasted your time. So that's the key. And that leads into an interesting discussion about exactly what it means to be a winner in a negotiation. You guys, what does it mean to win a negotiation? What's that? Get what we want, right? And I guess if you're not a winner, you're a what? A loser! And does anybody want to be a loser? No. Absolutely not, because we're winners, right? So you saw the Super Bowl last year, right? Who won? Giants. Who lost? And they're losers, right? Was it a win-win game? Did they go, well, okay, that's you scored, we scored, let's call it cool. Yeah, that's all good. All right. No! Somebody wins, somebody loses, right? And that's the way it is in negotiations, right? Not necessarily, huh? Dang it! I like it when it's nice and simple, right? Winner, loser, then, right. So if you're going to win? If you're going to win, what's it going to take to win? How does the other guy, the other side of the table, need to feel? Feel? Touchy-feely stuff. How does he have to feel when the negotiation is done? Uncomfortable? Excellent, because you crushed him, right? Yeah, well, that's one possibility. Now, if you're negotiating something with a vendor, and you get him good. I don't know, he's a kid or whatever, right? He had no idea what he was doing. But you've done this before, and you negotiated him into a corner he couldn't get himself out to if he tried. Excellent, fantastic. That kid's going to go back to his boss and say, hey, here's the deal. And his boss is going to go, oh my God, what did you do? And the boss is going to go, I'm going to have to fix this, right? How's the boss going to fix it if you've negotiated something with a vendor? Well, he could void the contract, okay, but assuming he doesn't, because he wants to keep you as a customer. All right, so you're executing on a contract that's really good for you and really, really bad for them. And then you have to change something. You need a change to the contract. What are they going to do? Are they going to make the change? Darn straight they are. How much is it going to cost you? $1 million. Because they're still angry about what you did to their sales rep or whoever it was, right? So the concept is, if they're not happy with the deal, you're going to feel, and by the way, if you're going to have somebody do work on your house, I need to have a brick wall built, and you just rake him over the coals. You get him down to the tiniest dollar. He might be making something on the deal, but not a lot, because you're such a good negotiator. What kind of wall are you going to get? It'll be about yay high. It's going to have as few bricks in it as possible, right? Yeah, he'll do the wall for you, but he's not going to do a good wall for you, is he? Yeah, you're getting what you paid for, I'll tell you that much, right? All right, so clearly if you want to win a negotiation, you need to, however you do it, you got to make sure the other side of the table walks away from that deal going, wow, I feel that I got a good deal. Sorry about the touchy-feely stuff, but in this case, it's actually really sort of important. Okay. If you're going to be a winner, does that mean that you're going to get everything you wanted to get out of that negotiation? You went in with a list of 10 things you wanted. Are you going to get all 10? No?
Maybe.
Loser. All right, so if you're not going to get all 10, are you going to get 5 of them? If you get 5, are you still a winner? Okay, 6? We're getting closer. 7? What's it going to take to be 8? You need at least 8 to be a winner, right? You can give up 2, but you need 8. 7, not a winner, right? The key thing here is you're not going to get everything, right? Man, if you've ever bought a house, generally how most people buy a house is before they go looking, they go, well, what would I like in a house? I would like 5,000 square feet. I would like 12 bathrooms. I'd like a 2-tiered pool. And I would like, 100 acres. And then you go look at houses. And you end up with 1/4 acre. And like a little plastic splash tub for the kids, and a half bath, and that. Yeah, that's the concept is you'll never get everything that you want. Okay. The most important thing is that you get the things that are important to you. Okay. But even if you win a negotiation, you're not going to get every single thing that you went in there asking for. Okay. The other side of the table can't grant you everything that you want. They may not be in a position, if you showed up with 10 things that you wanted, they're not even in a position to give you all 10 things that you want. Okay? So you need to remember that the concept of winning, it's balance. It's a balance between you and between them. It's not like in sports. All right, so now let's talk about actual negotiations. Let's talk about that phase 1 stuff, preparing. Very first thing that you want to think about when you prepare is, where are you going to negotiate? Real quick question, when you buy a car, where do you negotiate for the car? In the dealership. Well, that sounds like a really good plan. Not. All right, so let's talk about sports for a moment. I got a phrase. I need you to complete the phrase for me. It's called home field advantage. That's right. Home field advantage. And they've done all sorts of studies about this, right? Huge to have the home field advantage. Your chances of winning go way up if you have that home field advantage. Guess what? In negotiating, exact same thing. If you can negotiate on your home terms, on your home base, you're going to do a lot better in that negotiation. Okay? You're going to have access to all the information that you need. If you're negotiating in a business environment, you're going to have access to all the people. That's a good point. Let's run it by legal. Hey, legal, come here for a minute. Or I got to check with my boss. I'll just go down like they do in an auto dealer. Let me go check with my boss. I'll be right back, right? Okay? The last thing you want to do when you're negotiating with somebody is negotiating their environment. Okay? Because then they have exactly the same advantage. What you'll discover in a lot of business negotiations is, how do we solve this problem? Where do we negotiate? On the golf course, right? No, we go to a neutral location, right? Some other place. And we do it because this is such a powerful, powerful force. Okay? And also, by the way, there's no perfect time to conduct a negotiation. But if you're getting ready to negotiate with somebody, as you prepare for it, you need to think about how long it's going to take. How long could this take? And remember, we do a lousy job at time estimation. So however long you think the negotiation is going to take, double it. Right? This should just take an hour. We should be able to wrap this up in an hour. Half a day later. Oops, not quite, right? Now, my best story on picking time and places and dates and stuff like that comes, interestingly enough, from the Japanese. In the 1980s, the U.S. started to do a lot of trade with the Japanese. And what would happen is the executives in the U.S. would fly, I think they'd leave the U.S. on Friday, they would arrive in Japan on Saturday, Sunday was a down day, and then on Monday, negotiations for whatever the business deal they were trying to set up would start. Okay? Monday was introductions, Tuesday and Wednesday, not a lot of progress would be made. Thursday was a great day. They made a lot of progress towards striking a deal. And then Friday morning comes, and the executive, the U.S. executive, is going home on Friday, right? And Friday evening. Friday morning, not making that much progress, right? But shortly after lunch, the Japanese would show up, and there'd be like 2 or 3 big issues still open, holding everybody back from striking the deal. And the Japanese would show up with a proposal for the 2 or 3 big issues that were still open. And their proposal, it wasn't really the best proposal from the U.S. point of view. It was okay, but really they needed to make some changes to it. But there wasn't, the plane was okay. Right, let's just go with it, and that was it, right? What the U.S. executives didn't know is that the Japanese business executives that they were negotiating with were in cahoots with the guys who were running JAL, the Japanese airline. Okay? So they knew exactly what the U.S. executive's flight schedule was. They knew when they had to leave. And so what the Japanese business executives were doing, they were scheduling the negotiations to work out almost like a play, right? Nothing would happen. They'd have success. Friday was a carefully scripted play, right? A little bit of success, oh no, and then they come together with that. And they made it work out exactly the way, because they knew at the tail end the U.S. executives had to leave, because their plane was getting ready to take off. And that's when they'd come with the almost good enough, but not quite good enough proposal that they knew that they'd agree to. It took a few years, but eventually the U.S. executives understood what was happening when they started talking amongst themselves. Did this happen? Did this happen? Oh my God. Okay. And eventually they started staying over that second weekend. We'll stick around. Let's see if we can work this out on Monday. So it all went away.
Did they make the fatal flaw of going their turn?
Not initially. It was us going to them. And you ever go back to the 80s and remember what it was? I think what it was the Japanese held the trump cards. They had the manufacturing capabilities and stuff like that. So if we wanted to sell their products, we had to. And they'd say, why don't you come over? And in all honesty, the Japanese made it very nice for us. They'd wine us and dine us and show us Tokyo and the whole shit. So it was a very exotic, right? Them coming over here wasn't nearly as exotic, right? But actually, when the Japanese executives came over, they came over for a long period of time, right? They'd come over for a couple weeks or half a month or something like that, right? Because they knew how to play the game. Well, we got smarter. It just took us a little while. All right. So here's an interesting situation. You're going to negotiate with somebody for something. You block off a half a day or a full day. They come up. You're ready, because remember, it's combat. It used to be combat. You're smarter now, so it's no longer combat. And they present you with a proposal. And you look at that proposal, and you go, oh my God, this is perfect. It's priced less than whatever you were going to pay. They're offering you more than you were even going to ask them for, and they're going to have it in your hands quicker than you possibly thought you could have them do it. And you're looking at it going, I guess I had a wish left, because this is exactly what I wanted. So what do you do then? You whip out the pen, right? My God, they might run out of the room. Sign, sign, sign. Don't let this go away, right? No, you don't do that. And there's actually a very, very important psychological reason why you don't do that. Look, if somebody comes to you with a proposal that is basically what you're looking for, what you need to do is you need to say no. You need to say this isn't good enough. Okay? And then you need to make some sort of demand. Lower your price, increase your quantity, whatever the scoop is. Hey, I'd like to sell this house to you. Fantastic. How much are you going to sell it to me for? About $150,000. No, it's got to be like 120. Whatever. Doesn't matter, okay? And the reason that you have to do this is because, remember, to make a deal happen, how many sides of the table have to be happy with the deal? One or two? Two, right? Okay, if you accept their proposal right off the bat without any discussion, what are they going to be thinking? Damn, I should have charged more, right? Okay, this is a huge deal, okay? If you don't make them work for everything that they get in the negotiation, they're going to think that they did something wrong. Okay? Classic story on this one is there was an actress by the name of Dinah Shore. She was out in Beverly Hills. She was looking for a new house. She came across a house and she said, wow, this is a very nice house. She was with a realtor broker. And she said, you know, I'd be willing to pay $425,000 for this house. And the realtor broker said, okay, it's yours. And that pissed off Dinah Shore forever. The house eventually became worth more than $1 million, but she was still angry about it, because she felt that she had overpaid for the house. So when you get the perfect deal, when somebody presents you either a complete deal that's perfect, or when you're negotiating something with somebody and there's a component of it that's just perfect, complain! Ask for more! You know, if they don't give it to you, then you know it's a concession. You're like, well, you know, we can work through that one. You're still getting more than you wanted. But they're going to feel that they had to work for it. If they had to work for it, then all of a sudden they know they did a good job, right? Because they went toe-to-toe with you, okay? And you backed down. So obviously, it would be great. You may still be walking out of there with a better deal than you hoped or imagined for, but because you did it, it worked out very well. All right, next point. Shut up. I like to talk. You like to talk. You're a friendly person, right? So when you go into a car dealer, for example, because we've all done this multiple times, right? You sit down at the guy's desk, and you're going to set up a deal. Does he just start talking to you about the deal right off the bat? No. He's got to get papers out, right? He's got to get some forms and some papers. He's got to look around for a pencil or a pen and stuff like, hey, would you like some coffee or what have you? Does he talk with you? Yeah, he's talking with you. What's he talking about? Stuff, right? How long have you been in town? Who do you work for? What's your position? What do you do for them? How long have you worked for them? You know, if you tell me who you work for, if you tell me how long you've worked for them, guess what I'm doing? I'm figuring out what your salary is, right? I figure out what your salary is, I can figure out what your monthly payments could be, right? Once I've got that information, we're having a very interesting negotiation because I just got that information out of you, right? So, you know, in every negotiation there's small talk, periods of time where just have a chat with the person. Talk about sports, talk about weather, talk about anything like that. Don't talk business, okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to slip up, and stuff's going to slip out. And what's going to happen is you're going to equip the other side with information that they didn't have before. Now here's the other secret to this one. More often than not, when we negotiate as part of a team. It could be in business, it could be you and multiple people. If it's you and your loved one negotiating, okay, then that's still a team. You know, maybe I've gotten through to you, maybe I've convinced you that the next time you're in a negotiation, you've got to keep your mouth shut. Okay? You need to have a talk with them. Okay? They've got to keep their mouth shut too. So you're sitting there at the auto dealer, your lips are zipped, you're not talking at all. And she's going, oh yeah, well we've been here for 10 years, and I'm so happy because he just got promoted. He's really doing quite well. I'm so proud. And you're like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, right? Coordinate with your team. Prepare with your team. Get everybody to keep their mouths shut. Because the more they say, the more that you're equipping the other side with. Okay? The classic story on this one is a husband and wife who are looking at a house. Husband's hanging out with the real estate agent going, I don't know, this piping, it looks like it's been here for several years. We're probably going to have to rip that all out. And then the air conditioning unit, that looks like it's rusting out too. So that's probably something else that we're going to have to look in. Meanwhile, the wife's upstairs going, it's perfect. I can see the sofa going here, and I can see the lounge chair going here. And this is my color too. It's like, no, coordinate. Let's have that talk beforehand. Okay, shh. It might be perfect, but just try not to bring that up. All right. So, does everybody know what a BATNA is? Have you heard about a BATNA before? Excellent. Well, this is fantastic. If you get nothing else out of our time together, I'm going to equip your vocabulary with a powerful term. And it is BATNA. Now, BATNA is an acronym. It stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. Okay? Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. And what this means is before you go into any sort of negotiating situation, you want to be thinking to yourself, what happens if this doesn't work out? What happens if I can't buy the car, if I can't buy the house, if I can't work out with this vendor, what we're going to do? Okay? Good question. Okay? You have to figure out how to handle it. What would I do if tonight I can't buy this car? Okay? And what you want to do is you want to make sure that that's very clear in your mind. Because if you don't do that, what's going to happen is as you go through the negotiations, you'll get about halfway through, and if it doesn't look like a deal is going to happen, you know what you're going to do? You're going to panic. Okay? You go, I really need this car, or I really need this house, or I really need this deal with this vendor, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I am so screwed. Okay? And you're going to start to make bad decisions. So before you start your negotiation, you need a BATNA, Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. Now this is a picture of the back end of my, 2002 Honda Odyssey. If you take a close look, you'll notice a few dents, just a few dents, okay? So here's this scoop. Fantastic vehicle, got it up to about 150,000 miles. Couple people banged into it. At 150,000 miles, it's not about looks anymore, right? So I took that insurance money and I kept it. But it was time to sell the minivan. It was time for me to go buy a new Honda minivan, okay? So I needed to know what my BATNA was going to be. So this is, hey, I'm an engineer, right? So this is my flow chart for how I'm going to go out and buy one. So what did I want? I wanted a 2010 model. Didn't want to get a new one. Wanted to get a 2010 one. Probably about 12,000 miles, and I was hoping to pay $25,000 or less, of course. So let's see. If I went into a dealer and they had no Odyssey, what was I going to do? I was going to walk away. There's nothing to talk about, right? If I went into a dealer and the price on all the Honda Odysseys, used Honda Odysseys, were greater than $25,000, what was I going to do? I was going to walk away, right? If I went into a Honda, into a dealer and they had only older models that were greater than 2008, what was I going to do? I was going to look for it to see if they had low mileage, right? If there's a diamond in the rough there. It's a little bit older than I was hoping for, but hey, if it's got fewer miles, let's have a talk. Let's see what's going on there. All right, and if I went in there and they had only Honda Odysseys, used Honda Odysseys that had more than 20,000 miles on it, but let's have a talk about price. Okay, if you got something that's lower, then maybe I'm flexible, right? So I'm getting flexible on my BATNAs here. Ooh, acting class. All right, we can talk about negotiating all we want, but if we don't actually see it in action, it's just not going to stick with you. So I have two actors. It would be the engagement ring. I would like to have my actors who are doing my engagement ring. Yeah, there's a hand in the
Engagement ring, I have it.
Come on up. Now, come on up. We're not going to worry about genders here. Okay, we're not going to be making any statements whatsoever. It's all good. It is all good. It is all good. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share with you that the actors for this particular skit are not professional actors, but they are erstwhile volunteers. Gentlemen, come on up here. Let's have. Who's my buyer? Who's buying the ring? Are you buying the ring or are you selling the ring?
I'll do whatever you want.
Well, you had a piece of paper. What did that paper say? Did you read it?
I kind of glanced at it.
You glanced at it. Did it say if you were buying or selling?
I'm buying.
He's buying. So you must be selling.
I must be.
You have some criteria. Well, whatever. We're going to wing this. We're going to wing this. Okay, so you're going to buy this gentleman here is coming in to buy an engagement ring. This is our jewelry store owner here.
Now, let me put on my jeweler's glass.
Okay, excellent, fantastic. I'm getting shivers up and down the spine. Let's see how it goes, sir. So you have something in particular that you'd like to talk to him about. Is that correct?
I want to look at your 1 carat diamond.
Well, you first got to walk in the store. I need lunch. How you doing?
Okay, good. I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I'm Wes. What's your name?
Richard.
Richard, nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm just wait. 1 carat. Get to the doctor.
Wow. You must have a really special woman.
Sort of.
1 carat, that's pretty impressive. Is this your first marriage? Probably shouldn't ask that.
Yep, exactly.
That's exciting though. No, I remember when I got married 29 years ago. That was a really exciting point. So you're looking for an engagement ring. That's great. Well, we have a whole, assortment of engagement rings here. Did you have something in mind, a style, or other than the 1 carat?
Something that's good clarity.
Good clarity, okay. Something maybe in a gold, a silver, a platinum?
Probably white gold.
White gold, wow. Now, those are pretty rare. White gold is pretty rare, but I do happen to have one that I can go get for you. It's in the back, and we just go get it.
Hey, wow.
Now, this is a really special ring. My wife actually bought this ring. She's the buyer here at the store. Why don't you take a look at this, see what you think.
A lot of yellow in it. It looks like a few little black specks in it. And,
Well, here, let me get you my jeweler's list. Let me clean your glasses. No, that's a C1H2 paired diamond there.
well, it's still got some black specks. And
Would you like to look at a different one? Okay, well here, you can't keep that. If you don't. Let's look at the case here. I mean, I've got a lot of choices. What kind of you see anything here?
What's your price range in these guys?
We can go all the way from $10 to $10,000. You got a price range that you're targeting?
Let's look for something maybe around $800 to $1,000.
$800 to $1,000. Well, let's see here. It's nice. Now, this isn't white gold; it's platinum. So it is a little more expensive than what you're looking for, but it's close. We're at $1,200.
Really didn't look platinum.
No, it looks the same. Looks the same.
Yeah, problem.
Is it? Okay. Well, you must be a engineer.
Ouch. We've heard that before.
How long have you been working?
Too long.
Too long?
Yeah.
Well, you know what the rule is on engagement rings, right? Did you know there's actually a rule on engagement rings for the price that you need to be paid for an engagement ring? It's actually 3 months' salary. And I'm thinking you make a lot. $1,000 in 3 months.
No, I work cheap.
You work cheap, but I bet your soon-to-be wife, I bet she's worth every bit of that 3 months
All of
salary.
$800.
Wow. I don't know if there's anything I can do to help you out here.
We may have.
I think this is really the last one. It is white gold.
Okay.
It is right at .99 carats.
Okay.
Why don't you take a look at that one and see what you think?
Well, looks good, but we got to stick with the 1 carat.
Okay, well, I tell you what, doesn't look like I've got anything here for you, but I'll keep my eyes open, and if I see something that fits your bill, if you leave me your phone number, I'll give you a call.
Okay, I can
right.
certainly do that.
Thanks, Richard.
Glad to.
Excellent. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, excellent. Have a seat, guys. Round of applause. So how'd that one go, guys? Yeah, sort of like what you expected, right? Now, do you think they're going to reach a deal? Yeah, you're not thinking so, right? They were pretty close, though, weren't they? There was a size issue on the diamond, I believe.
Size, quality, yeah.
And then it was also a cost issue, right? Now he was negotiating with an engineer. We know how that is, right? Now, if you're going to negotiate with an engineer, do you think you really want to focus on price, or maybe the quality of the stone, the characteristics of the stone? What do you think is going to work with an engineer?
Well,
Probably characteristics of the stone, right?
I thought quality, but he was hung up on price.
He was hung up on price, right? And you had some motivations for price. right? Because I told you what your price was, right?
Okay, right.
Now, what you didn't, see, he didn't actually read his list, okay? If you'd read it,
I have a $900 bill that I can't pay.
he's got to pay it, right? You got to be a little bit.
$800.
No, that's true, but it's going to get you pretty close, right?
Still got my
Then you can go negotiate with your banker.
negotiate with next question.
That's exactly. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Okay. So, negotiations are messy things, right? But you saw a conversation happen, and that's exactly what it's all about. Now, whenever you're negotiating with somebody, if they've got their act together, at some point in time during the negotiation, they're going to whip out what I like to call facts and stats. Hey, I've done the same deal with 400 other people, and it turns out that they've all been very happy with this price. This has been the perfect price for them. Or, by the way, I can't remember these diamond rings I sell. This is the hottest one. All the good-looking young ladies in town are buying this one, right? Okay? So the thing you have to do, the thing you have to keep in your mind is whenever the other side whips out some facts and stats, you got to be skeptical. Okay? You got to go, oh, that's very interesting. Then you have to start thinking to yourself, where'd they get that number or that fact? Okay? You got to think about it, where do the facts and stats come from? If they bring an expert in, well, Dr. So-and-so on our team says, you got to think about, where did he come from? Makes him an expert, right? He's got a title or something, whatever. Duke of Windsor says that this is a good deal. Why? Okay? And oh, by the way, sometimes what happens is they show up with fancy color-bound documents. Let's take a look at the prospectus. And you look at it and you go, wow, this is really nice. But quick question, have you guys been in a Kinko's within like the last 10 years? $35 and I can have a darn nice color-bound, triple, quadruple color with tear-out sections, in your hand by tomorrow morning, right? So don't get, no matter how the quality of the material they have, don't get swayed by that, okay? Your job as a sales negotiator is always to be asking questions. When they give you a fact or a stat, say, where did it come from? Why should I believe that? Is that really relevant to what we're doing? Okay? Subtlety to any negotiation, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand, is when the other side presents you with a price. I'm selling you a car. Okay, let's say I'm selling you a car. This is a fantastic car. I only have 2 of them left, and one of them's already spoken for. But this one could be yours. It's $40,000, and I'm giving up my commission to give it to you for $40,000. But you look like a nice guy. I could see you in this, and I know that you're really going to turn around if I can get you in this car. Okay? When he presents you with that offer of $40,000, the first thing you don't want to do is come back with a quick counteroffer. Oh, how about 32? Okay? The reason you don't want to is because the most powerful time for you during the negotiation is between the time period of when he presents you with a price and when you make a counteroffer. And the reason that that's the most powerful time is because during that time period, he doesn't know if a deal is going to happen. Until you come back with a counteroffer, everything's up in the air, right? Hey, I'm selling this house for $1 million. I need to hear you say something about that $1 million offer, right? If you don't say anything, well, we're looking for something for about $25,000. Woo! Yeah. You got to come back to something, right? So during that time period, he's made an offer, and before you've made a counteroffer, is your time to mine for gold. Ooh, that's a lot. Where are you coming up with that number? Gosh, that seems awfully expensive. And just take him over the coals at this particular point in time. Until you make a counteroffer, the power is on you. Okay, because the other side needs to hear from you, a counteroffer, to make sure that they understand that a deal can actually happen. Until you do that, everything's up in the air. Breakdowns. Okay, if you do this, generally see this in business, right? Hey, I'd like to have a plumber come over to my house. I got a problem. I need a plumber to come over and fix this. Okay, that's cool. I'll go through a bunch of different plumbers, finally come with one who's offered, I'll do it for $2,500. Hey, that's pretty good. I'm talking to a lot of people. I see you got a $2,500 offer. Could you break that down for me? If I'm going to ask a plumber to break down a proposal, what's he going to break it into? Basically 2 buckets. What buckets he's going to break it into? Parts and labor, right? All right, so if he says it's going to be like $2,000 for parts and $500 for labor, what am I going to do? What's my next discussion with him going to be about? $2,000 for parts? Well, I've got a darn nice house, but gold pipe? Really? Do you think it needs gold pipe? Could we maybe go with bronze? And if we went with bronze pipe, what would that do to the price? How do we take that $2,000 down? $500 for labor? Because it's going to be like 20 plumbers on site? How about if we go with 10 plumbers? Hey, you know, what's it going to be for 10 plumbers, right? But once he breaks down his offer, you're coming right back, right? And you're going to start talking about the individual components of that offer, and you're going to be trying to take it down. When it was just $2,500, when it was just a blob, there was nothing for you to pick at, right? So you need to keep this in mind. When somebody asks you to break down your offer into various parts, do you want to do it? Absolutely not. If you possibly can get away with not doing it, don't break your offer into multiple parts, because the next thing they're going to do is start picking at it, okay? All right. Concessions. You know, ultimately that's what it all comes down to, right? You go into a negotiation, you want to get a bunch of stuff. Concessions are what you give in to the other side. Okay, I'll let that go. I'll come down on my price, I'll come down on my delivery, I'll give you some terms. You expect them to do the exact same thing. Okay? Studies have shown that sales negotiators who make their concessions in smaller increments do much better. If I'm selling $500,000, pricey, about $100,000. Wait, stop, hold it. You might get to $100,000, but don't do it that way. Okay? Do much smaller increments. Okay? But this also means if you go into a negotiation and you know you're going to make concessions to the other side, what does that mean as far as your planning? It means you've got to prepare to make concessions, right? So think about the things that you'll make concessions on. Time or money or people or schedule or whatever it is. And then you need to make sure that your initial proposal on them has room built into it, right? You inflate your price so you can come down later or whatever the story is. But if you know you're going to make concessions, prepare for it before the negotiations start. Yes?
I was taught that it's a price concession to start with. You would always make your first one, probably your plan would be to make that your largest chunk. Whatever that concession threshold is going to be, say it's 5%.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You go, okay, 3%. And then you start nibbling from there and want forcing the other person to come up. Have you heard this and you follow that theory?
I've heard a bunch of different theories on that one. Ultimately, I think it comes down to the other side of the table that you're negotiating with. And also, one of the key things to understand is that how many different points are you negotiating on? You know, if it's really all about price, okay, then you probably want to make smaller increments because you're going to be talking about that price for a long time. But if you're talking about price and quantity and schedule, and there's a lot of big issues on the table, okay, then what you can do on that one is you can hold off on that. Don't make that fairly sizable jump until later on, and make sure that you get concessions from them. If I'm going to give you, for example, 3% on price, okay, then I want concessions from you on 2 other things for doing that, right? So you have to make sure how many points are significant. There's probably a whole bunch of things that you're negotiating, but as far as significant issues, that's your big gun, so to speak. Make sure that you do it later in the negotiations. Don't do it right off the bat, and then also make sure that you tie it to 1 or more significant concessions on their side. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So the story on this one is back, I think it's like the 1800s, there was an Englishman who wanted to go to the city of Mecca. If you don't know how this one works, if you're not of the Islamic faith, you're not permitted to go into the city of Mecca because it's a very, very holy city. Man, he just wanted to go and see it. He'd heard so many great things about it. So he got some local guy, darkened his skin, and he put on the local dress, and he got in. Man, he went everywhere in Mecca. He saw it all the fabulous things that there are to see in Mecca. Great. But he got late in the day, man, he was starving. He was really hungry. So he went down to the market, and he found a banana vendor. And he said, hey, how much for some bananas? And the vendor said, oh, it's like, 4 copper coins. And he said, okay, cool. So he gave him 4 copper coins. And the vendor said, infidel! Because he didn't negotiate. Right? And in that culture, you never just pay up for it, right? You always negotiate for it, right? So the concept is it's always built in. So also, if you're going to go see the city of Mecca, apparently that's not the right way to do it. Okay. Americans, suck at bartering. We're not really very good. It's not really part of our culture, right? You go into Best Buy and it says it costs $200 for that cool stereo system. How much are you going to give them? You're going to give them $200. Actually, you'll probably give them $300 when they upsell you on the, the warranty and the support and the underbody coating. Okay, yeah. All right, and plus tax. Good point there. Okay, now this is actually a very important point. So just as you had mentioned in terms of, mythology about negotiating, there's a huge statement that says never make the first concession. If you make the first concession in a negotiation, you're going to lose. The answer is that's not really true. Here's the way this one really should go. Okay? Don't make the first major concession. So if I'm negotiating with you, there are 10 points that we're negotiating on. 2 of those are probably significant. 8 of them are probably just there. They're not that significant. I can go either way on those ones. But 2 of them are very important to me. I must be careful to not make a concession first on those 2 points. Okay? If that happens, studies have shown the negotiation is not going to turn out well for me. I'm constantly going to be trying to make up for making that concession, right? So the way you do this one is during the negotiation, you know what ones are important to you. You make concessions to the other side on the points that don't matter to you. I'll give in, I'll give in, I'll give in, and eventually we're going to get around to one of those big issues, okay? And when we get to the big issue, you're going to go to the other side, hey, listen, I've already given in on a bunch of stuff. You need to give in to me on this one. They'll feel a sense of obligation, we'll give in to you, and you'll go on from there, okay? So the concept is, don't make the first major concession during the negotiation. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a situation you don't want to be in. Acting class. All right, who is number 2? I think this is, are we doing, what, houses or cars? Who's number 2?
I'm buying a car.
You're buying a car. Come on up. Who's selling them a car? You selling them a car?
Yep.
Come on up. Hey, has anybody here ever bought or sold a car? Well, this perhaps, all right, you're buying, right? And you've got the dealership, right? And you just showed up. All right, have a chat.
Actually, I was searching Craigslist.
Craigslist. Oh, that's right. It's a Craigslist purchase.
I believe it's a phone.
Because we're like 21st century here. Okay, this is very good. All right, yeah. So you're selling yours on Craigslist, and he just found your ad. Oh, and you're calling them too, aren't you? Well, you got to pick up the phone. Hand phone. Yay! Okay.
Yeah, I saw your car on Craigslist, and I was just curious what, I didn't see a picture or anything like that, so I was just, curious the make and the model and the mileage on it.
The car is really in great condition. It's blue BMW 325 model.
Okay, how many miles was that?
It has around 80,000 miles.
80,000, oh, okay. What was the year on that?
It was made by this BMW.
For 2008, is it highway miles or city?
It was the primary highway miles. So
Okay.
it was commuting one town to another town just to see my girlfriend. But now I just moved in and I don't commute anymore.
Okay. Well, I wasn't really looking for a BMW, but I was just kind of checking around. But I mean, a BMW would be nice to have. Have you had tune-ups on it lately? I know they're kind of pricey when you start getting high miles on BMW. So I was just curious about that.
But BMW, they usually have highway mileage when they're selling because they're lasting for a long time. So that's.
How's the tires on it? 80,000
I
miles.
just recently changed the tire and they're in good shape.
Okay.
It's ready to go.
Is the paint any scratches or?
No, it's just I will if you give me your email or I can send you the picture on your phone number. Literally, they can pick it out.
Okay. Have you had some kids over the car that maybe run the
No,
interior?
it's still single.
Even though you have a girlfriend who's...
Yeah, there it is. It's all good.
Okay, well, as far as the price goes, do you have any idea what you're looking for? I know you're saying 80,000 miles, and that's kind of high, like I said, for 2008. And I've kind of been looking on kellybluebook.com, so kind of have an idea of what it's worth. I was just curious, what you were looking for. I saw on Kelly Blue Book, it seems like, it would be, slightly under, 20,000, but with the mileage, I would say, you're looking at probably 16. I didn't know if that would be okay.
I told that was around 20,000.
But, I mean, did you calculate the miles into that? Because usually when they're talking about excellent condition, it's, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, well, that's for the excellent condition, and I consider my car in excellent condition, but it can be a little flexible around the price.
Okay, so I mean, do you think, even though maybe Kelly Blue Book said, I would consider the car, good around 17, do you think maybe 18,000 would be fine then? Give a little bit in?
You can come over, look at the car, and make a deal.
Okay, yeah, I'll email me your address. Maybe I can come over tonight and check it out then.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Good job. Thanks. Applause for our amateur actors. Very good. That all seems sort of familiar to you? Going back and forth, characteristics and stuff like that. Remember, compromise. When you go into a negotiation, you're not going to get everything that you want. You need to plan your compromises. What's important to you? What's not important to you? One of the key things here is understanding in any negotiation, you don't have to have tit for tat. Just because they give in on something, you don't necessarily have to give in anything. However, if you do give in on something, you want them to make a concession to you. It's not fair, but it doesn't have to be fair. It's a negotiation, right? Okay. Deadlines are deadly things, okay? And if you don't understand what's going to happen, it can sneak up on you, okay? What happens is we, as human beings, make really bad decisions under pressure. We start to run out of time and go, and we end up just making bad decisions that we will regret after we make it. If you need an example of this, if you've ever seen parents with kids who are trying to get the kids ready to go out or do something, right? They're ready to go and the kids are just sort of like whatever. The kids want something, right? They're like, well, if you give me this, I'll be ready to go. And the parents are like, oh my God, the movie starts in 20 minutes. We got to go now. The kids are like, I want. What do the parents end up doing? Shut up. Yeah. You horrible child of mine. Okay, we're out of here. Right? Okay, so you need to understand the deadlines approach. You need to understand that people make bad decisions under deadlines. Okay, last few minutes of any negotiation, lousy time to give in to the other side. Keep in mind when things are going to end. If you reach a stopping point and you haven't achieved a goal, go ahead and say, hey, let's go ahead and continue this. Okay? Do not allow your decision making to be influenced by a deadline. And if the other side makes a deadline for you, remember you've got a BATNA, right? What's a BATNA? What did we say that was? Exactly, right? People love pulling the deadline on you. Oh, I have to go in a half an hour because I got another meeting. So if we can't reach a deal by then. So I'll tell you, why don't you just go now, right? We'll get back together some other time, right? Call their bluff on it. All right. Another thing you have to worry about during a negotiation is something called funny money. Have you ever gone to Las Vegas? Anybody ever gone to Las Vegas? Excellent. Atlantic City, any of those places? Now, did you gamble? You gambled while you were there, correct? Did you gamble with money or with chips? Chips. Why? Why did you gamble with chips? Why not money? Ah, right. Now, and you lost those chips, because we all lose the chips, right? How did you feel? Whatever. It's just chips, right? It's not like it's money, right? And that's why they do it. There's some other processing reasons, but the real reason that you gamble with chips when you go to Vegas or Atlantic City is because when your chips go away, you feel a sense of loss. But it's not like there's 20s or 100s or 50s going away. I mean, that's real money. Chips are just chips, right? So when we're talking about funny money, what does that actually mean? Well, it means like if you're talking to somebody and they say, hey, I'm getting ready to buy a bunch of stuff. Can you take 2 cents off per unit? I'm buying a bunch of stuff. Could just trim 2 cents per unit. It's like nothing, right? Well, if they're buying 1 million units, it's something, right? Same thing goes on with interest rates, right? How many credit card offers do you get in the mail with an introductory interest rate that's something crazy low, like, I don't know, 4% or something? That sounds like a good deal, doesn't it? You ever read the fine print? What happens after the first, 2-3 months? What does it snap up to? 35% or something like that, right? So we're talking funny money. So whenever the other side makes any sort of financial offer to you in any way, take a very close look at it, because they might be dealing with funny money. Okay? The other side desperately wants to give it all away, and you're there to help them. Okay? It's possible to make one of the 4 main sins during a negotiation. First off, if they show up with no plan, you've got them, because you're going to have a plan, right? Your next negotiation, you're going to plan it out before you start. Number 2, bad agreements. Okay, you'd be amazed at the number of people who talk, you write it down, and then they just sign the agreement because they assume those words on the page are what you guys have been talking about. Okay, horrible thing to do. And number 3, sometimes people don't even know what they're negotiating. You know, if you're negotiating something that you know very well, but the other side doesn't know, it becomes very clear that they're out of their league. You're talking about some sort of technical thing or some sort of legal or regulatory or something like that. They've got no idea what's going on, and you still know what's going on. They really shouldn't be negotiating. And then finally, no follow-up. Okay? That's the other 4th sin. Hey, great, you know, we shook hands, we went out for a beer, we had a great deal, and then they don't even look to see if the deal gets taken care of. Really? All right. So here we go. We're just about done here, guys. When you negotiate, your goal should be to be a winner. It's a winner, but a super winner, right? Okay, so what is a super winner? It's a higher level of negotiator. Okay? This means every time you negotiate with somebody, you're not looking to win, okay? But rather you're looking for a way for how you can make a better deal for both sides. Right? So when you start a negotiation, you come in with a mental impression of what you want to get out of the negotiation. Came in with a mental impression of what they wanted to get out of the negotiation. If you can find a way to make a better deal for both parties, imagine how they're going to feel when the negotiations are over. They're going to be like, wow, that turned out far better than I expected, right? How can you do this? Well, you know, if they're negotiating on one particular item or one particular thing, expand it. Hey, we're negotiating for how our work is out this year. Let's expand it to 2 years, or let's expand it to 4 products. Whatever. If you're negotiating to buy a car, hey, I'm here to buy a car from you. You know, my family has to buy cars too. Let's have a talk, right? You know, if you do a good deal for me, maybe I can start funneling my family through here. Let's have a talk on how that's actually going to work out. Okay? Negotiation is not a contest. Okay? Rather, there's an element of competition built into it, of course, but the concept is for both people to walk away with a deal that they can live with. Okay? And if you can work together with the other side to find more value, that's ultimately what it takes to have a good negotiation. All right, we're going to skip that one just because we're out of time. Remember, there's 8 phases to every negotiation. Okay? If you learn and understand the phases, then you'll understand where you're at in your next negotiation. And that's critical knowledge to have, because then you understand how much farther you have to go. And it explains what you need to do on each one of those phases, and that's what we've covered during our time here. Now, we've only had a brief amount of time together, and there's a lot more information around negotiating. The question is how can you get that? Well, I got something for you there. I publish a blog. It's called The Accidental Negotiator. And arguably, that's what we all are, right? Did anybody ever set out to be a negotiator? No, it's just something that you find yourself doing every so often, right? On this blog, I cover everything there is to know about negotiating. Check it out. What you'll find gets updated like every week. Okay? And there's just, you know, to be a good negotiator, there's 1,000 things you have to know. Okay? And ultimately, the 1,000 things will be on that particular blog. There's also a free newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. And once a month, you'll get more and more negotiating tips. Okay? And I believe that's it, what we're going to cover tonight.